All right, welcome back, LS students, both Austin and Packers. This is the start of our third quarter. We've missed you. It's been a while. So we're gonna just recap really quickly where we left off together back when you were with us here in first quarter. So depending on who your teacher is, Mr. Fritz, Miss Keefe, or myself, um, wherever that might have been, we kind of all left off in the same spot where we're talking about continental drift, plate tectonics, Alfred Wegener and his ideas and kind of his theory that he came out with, so on and so forth. Now, from there, we are now going to transition into our next unit, into our next section, which is going to be talking about chemistry concepts, which is everything from atoms to molecules, talking about the periodic table, chemical versus physical reactions, talking about acids versus bases, and how the pH scale works together with some of these different things. So we're going to just kind of dabble a little bit in some of these chemistry concepts. Now, if you've had chemistry before, or if you have an interest in chemistry, some of this stuff is going to sound very familiar for the fact that it is somewhat fundamental. It is the basic concepts, but nonetheless, we're going to go through this together since a lot of us haven't had exposure to this. So I'm going to go ahead and explain week one with you guys here right now. This is going to be our overview video talking about what we're doing, what you're doing from home, what you're going to be doing at school, and then even talking about a few other things for this week. There will be another video that I'm going to be making here talking specifically about one of your assignments over here, which is this first activity. This one's an interactive website. It's a little more engaging and a little more in depth. So that's going to be a separate video just for the fact that I really don't want to put too much information in this first video. I want to try to keep them short, sweet, and to the point. So let's go ahead, talk about this week, what's going on, what's happening, so on and so forth. So for my Austin crew, the folks that we're going to see right away, we are going to go ahead and start looking at some of our notes on matter, elements, compounds, mixtures. This is going to be found in OneNote. With the same thing is there's also going to be kind of an interactive processing activity, which involves you using those notes in those concepts to complete an assignment. So when we're looking at this over here, we have our notes in regards of classifying matter. Now this is something we are going to do together as a class. We have our PowerPoint, we have our PDF file here, which is going to go through, and our kind of nice little single sheet here of notes. We're going to fill this in together as a whole class and making sure that you have this material down correctly and that it's filled in properly. Now, once we have this done, your processing activity is going to have you guys use the notes that you just took to fill in your processing activity on elements, compounds, and mixtures. Now, this is going to use those same notes to kind of fill in what a pure substance containing only one kind of blank would be. We'll go through some compounds, go through some things with mixtures, and then the last part of your kind of your bottom portion here on page 1 is determining, is these examples something representing a compound, an element, or a mixture? It's going to be one of those three. So you're going to be looking at these different items, like a diamond, milk, krypton, salt, gold, pizza, salad, whatever that might be, and determining which one of those three is it. As you continue with that sheet, the last portion that you have to look at is determining whether these 5 examples is something that represents a pure element, a mixture of 2 elements, a compound, mixture of 2 compounds, or a mixture of a compound and an element. Now, as I mentioned, you are going to use the notes that we are going to be doing in class together. These notes right here, this classifying matter, elements, compounds, and mixtures, you're going to use these notes to work on and complete your processing activity. So that's item number 1. The second thing we're going to be doing in class is going through notes on acids and bases. So just like when we talked about classifying material, or matter I should say, We have our notes on acids and bases. We have our little pH scale here. And then we're going to be having a lab activity where you guys will actually have some hands-on things you're going to do involving you taking the pH of different substances within our lab. So is it going to be an acid? Is it going to be a base? Is it going to be neutral? And then also determining the number on the pH scale, which we're going to fill in this here later this week. So that's going to be our acids and bases. The other thing that we're going to be doing together in class is the bell work. Now, this is going to be something that should sound familiar. We kind of did bell work first quarter with you guys. We're going to pick the same thing up again and continue with it. The only thing that kind of should be aware for this week it is Scantron week. So it's going to be kind of a goofy schedule where you have your advisory first, you're doing Scantrons, and then you go to your class. Classes are going to be shorter. So instead of that full kind of like 88-minute period, we're looking at more of a like 60-minute period, give or take. So classes are going to be a little condensed this first week. So those are items that you guys are going to be doing in school with your teacher, whoever that might be, for this first week. Now, for my Packer kids that are going to be viewing this video tomorrow, the items that you're going to be doing at home, and this also pertains to Austin when you're distance learning, on Thursday and Friday, but the items you're going to be doing at home is, first off, you have your overview video, which is, if you're listening to me, you're in the right spot. The second item that you should be working on from home is your graph analysis and answering the questions. Well, I'm not going to spend much time explaining what the graph analysis is, because this should be something that is familiar, something that looks somewhat, relatively familiar compared to the first quarter. Looking at here, we have elements in the Earth's oceans, elements in the Earth's crust, and elements in the human body. So based off of those 3 pie charts, you have 5 simple questions that will go with that. So looking at the questions, they are relatively straightforward. For example, number 1, when observing the elements in each pie chart, what is something that they all have in common? So to kind of point you in the right direction, or at least in the familiar direction, is look at the overall comparisons between these 2, or these 3. What is the representation of oxygen compared to silicon, compared to calcium, sodium, potassium, magnesium, and some of these others? Specifically, the ratio of these different elements in these different parts. And kind of go along those lines, and it'll hopefully help you out. Same thing with the following questions. Once again, you're just looking at the charts, you're looking at the pie charts, and just answering these to the best of your ability based off of what you see, what you read, what you interpret, and so on and so forth. Other than that, the other item that's on here for activity is a periodic table scavenger hunt, which is going to be located on OneNote over here, which is your second item. But as I mentioned before, this is somewhat in depth, so I'm going to make a separate video for that, explaining to you what you need to do, how that needs to be completed, and kind of finalizing that all together. So, just to recap here really quick. If you're at home, you have 3 items that you're going to be working on here. The third item, I'm going to make a separate video explaining what to do for that. If you're going to be in school, we're going to be taking some notes, working on some activities. Hopefully we'll be getting into the lab. Depends on how this week kind of shapes out with your Scantron testing and some of the activities that we're going to be doing in academic coaching. But overall, it's going to be kind of a short, sweet, and to the point week. Just kind of reintroducing you guys into the mindset of a scientist, kind of getting your feet wet again, and transitioning into our chemistry concepts. So, welcome back. It's great to see you guys. I know if you're with Mr. Fritz or Mrs. Keefe, they are both eagerly excited to see you guys. So, have a great week. Can't wait to see you guys. And See you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed Monday or Thursday.